Fantasy football is back with another week. So are we. This is our week 9 wide receiver episode where we will be discussing the stardom, situms, and these upcoming matchups. Now, heading into this week, it's going to be a little bit of a different outlook. We had this trade deadline that just passed. We saw some blockbuster trades that happened, but nothing too much on the offensive side of the ball. Really, it was just Joshua Dobbs being shipped over from Arizona to Minnesota, with Kirk Cousins potentially being out with that torn Achilles. I mean, he's going to be out.
The Cardinals are tanking, bro.
They are.
Tanking.
They are. They have no rhyme or reason. They're a full send for Caleb Williams.
Do y'all think he's a bust?
It's hard to say. He struggled. He struggled a little bit
towards that way.
He struggled a little bit.
Before we get this episode started, I had a question I wanted to ask y'all. It's been going around the sports world and stuff. I've seen it lately. Talking about professional baseball. Do y'all think that Babe Ruth would be successful in today's game of baseball?
That's tough. Those questions are always so hard. It's a different game.
Not a chance.
It's like saying, I don't know.
I feel like players today aren't as strong as I wouldn't say that either. I would say that the players today are definitely faster than they are than the players back then. I would say the games even in basketball, the game is just faster. Have you guys been thinking about how we're already halfway through the season and you haven't had any luck in your betting yet? Well, neither have we. So guys, please join our Discord community and help us out. Help us help you. Guys, like Michael Scott said, money has been tight lately, but at the end of my life, when I'm sitting on my yacht, I'm going to be thinking about how much money I have. So, no, I'm going to be thinking about how much bets I've been winning because of you guys. So, guys, please join our Discord and help us out. We'll see you there.
With all that being said, though, DJ did mention we are moving on to week 9 of the fantasy football season. And to start week 9 off, we're going to talk about this Thursday night football game that we have coming up in a couple of days. And that is the Tennessee Titans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here in Tennessee, I think all the Titans fans and Mike Vrabel are wondering why they didn't start Will Levis week 1 because he came in and tore it up, lights out. So really look forward to seeing him and see what he does for the rest of the year. I hope he's a starter for the rest of the year so we can see what he can do and how capable he is. They're saying there's issues with his accuracy coming into the season. I thought he looked pretty dang good this past Sunday. So moving on to the receivers, I have DeAndre Hopkins. With how well Levis looked, I'm going to say that DeAndre Hopkins is still a medium risk start for me. And I'm only saying that because, yes, he had 30 points last week. Yes, he had 3 touchdowns last week. I get that. He only had 4 catches. They connected on the deep ball 3 times, and they just happened to all 3 be 4 touchdowns. So I would like to see a little bit more receptions out of DeAndre Hopkins. I think he kind of put up Rashid Shaheed numbers there, the guy that you look to make big plays. I just really struggle with only 4 catches in a game. Then we got Treylon Burks. I have Treylon Burks kind of as a low risk start. It makes me nervous here just because we haven't seen any consistency out of the Tennessee Titans. So I think our opinions and our decisions might change moving later into the season as we see what Will Levis can do there as a starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. But for now, I'm going to stick with that because I haven't seen consistency out of those Tennessee Titans receivers. But moving on to the Steelers wide receivers, of course, Deontay Johnson has been back. This was the second week back. He's looked good. He's been consistent since he's been back. I really like him there. We'll see how they do with Mitch Trubisky. I don't really know what the deal is right now with the Pickett situation and his injury, but they're going to have to throw the football to win football games and keep up. So I really like Deontay Johnson here as a low risk start. I think he can be very good for your fantasy football team.
Yeah, guys. So for this one's going to be probably one of the most hyped games of the week that I'm definitely going to be watching, and I know a lot of you guys will. And this one's going to have tons of fantasy players that I know that everyone's going to be having on their teams. And this is between the Miami Dolphins versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this game surprises me between two teams that are so highly touted and highly watched, and it's going to be an international game. It's going to be in Frankfurt, Germany, at Frankfurt Stadium. So this game is going to be very high scoring. I think it's going to be a lot of passing going on between these two quarterbacks, and Tua Tagovailoa and Patrick Mahomes. Now we're looking at two defenses. Miami Dolphins, I would say that they definitely are in the shit end of the stick when it comes in comparison to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have a much stronger secondary, I believe. They are currently 8th in reception yards, whereas the Miami Dolphins are 21st, and they're 14th in touchdowns given up through the air, whereas the Miami Dolphins are 25th. However, although Kansas City has, I believe, a better defense, I believe that Tua is still going to come out here and he's going to throw the ball 30 to 40 times per game, as he's been doing all season long, which is going to give Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle plenty of looks, plenty of opportunities to put some fantasy points on the board. Even if they don't score touchdowns, they're still going to give a pretty solid outing, which is why I have them at very low risk. So I would definitely start these guys in your lineup if you can. If you're looking at starting a solid person there for your DraftKings or your FanDuel, these are two players that I would definitely be looking to do, because this is going to be, like I said, a high-scoring game. The Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs are both going to be passing a lot to keep up with one another. As for the Kansas City Chiefs, I do have, like I said, it is going to be a high-passing game, but I have Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. They are currently very high risk for me. I'm not liking the opportunities that they're receiving. Sky Moore is averaging 2 to 3 targets per game, whereas Kadarius Toney is also receiving the same. And with those targets doesn't mean that that's how many receptions they're getting. They're only getting maybe 1 or 2, which I don't like, because one person we don't see on this board is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is their number one target. Now, the one player receiver that I do have that is, to me, a low risk, it may just be me that thinks this, but it's Rashee Rice. Guys, Rashee Rice is someone who's becoming a household name quicker than we think. This player is someone who is becoming a very trustworthy target for Patrick Mahomes, and I think every week he just gets a little more better. So I really like this. I think he's going to become part of this high-passing offense, and he's going to become part of this playbook. This is a good week for him to do that versus this Miami defense, and I'm liking this. Rashee Rice is definitely going to need to be a receiver you target this week. Patrick Mahomes really likes him. But guys, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead now and pass this off to DJ for the Los Angeles Rams versus the Green Bay Packers.
My Green Bay Packers. What a disappointing season it has been. Packers fans, we've been so high and hopeful that this is all going to go well. Unfortunately, it has not. So looking here, Christian Watson, I know he had the injury happen at the beginning of the year, but ever since returning, he hasn't looked like his true self. I know this is his second year, but as we can see here, he is the lowest scoring wide receiver on this Green Bay Packers team at 8.5 points behind Jayden Reed and Romeo Doubs. Because of that, coming in facing this Los Angeles Rams defense, who we can see is kind of just outside the top 10 in defenses at number 11 against the wide receiver position. So because of that and the way that Jordan Love has been struggling this year, I am putting Christian Watson as a medium risk. I think it's a matter of time before he finds it, but I don't really know necessarily if it's this week. I have much more faith in the Romeo Doubs matchup here. Romeo Doubs is the highest scoring wide receiver on this team at 12.1 points, averaging just shy of 8 targets a game. He is only catching half of those, but what I really like is his touchdown usage. We see that he is being targeted. He is the favorite target when they get into the red zone. So him being here as a low risk, I think that he's going to continue to be the number one wide receiver moving forward in this offense. And then that leaves Jayden Reed. Jayden Reed is starting to become a popular target as well. His targets, again, are roughly right there with Christian Watson. He's at 5.2. Christian Watson's at 5.3. So with that, I know Jayden Reed has found the end zone more so, and that has forced him to be that double-digit scorer where Christian Watson is not. So I do have him as a medium risk here as well. It's kind of figuring out who's going to be wide receiver 2 from this point moving forward. Now, looking at the Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they are averaging, I mean, they have a 33 or 30 plus percent target share for this team. So anyone that is in that 30 plus range is an automatic start. They're although they're getting all the targets, I mean, receptions are bound to come with that. And as we can see, that is the case here. They are both 15 plus scores. Puka is outperforming Cooper Kupp at just shy of 12 targets a game, but Cooper Kupp and Puka, I think, are must starts in your league no matter what. Tutu Atwell, on the other hand, he is a double-digit scorer as well. But I think that I do see him as a medium risk play here. Green Bay does have a good defense against wide receivers. We see that they struggle more so on the ground, and that becomes a defensive priority, is that they focus more so on the ground than anything. Also, Green Bay struggles to stay ahead in games, meaning that teams aren't likely to be passing the ball against them. So putting Tutu Atwell as a medium risk here. But that's all that I have here, and let's go ahead and kick it on to Nathan for the next matchup, which is the Seahawks versus the Ravens.
Yeah, looking at this matchup here, we're going to jump into what the Seahawks have. We have DK Metcalf. He is the wide receiver one there. I think it's going to be a pretty exciting game to watch. Baltimore has looked really good. Of course, you know, they're one of the top teams in the AFC, and the Seahawks are first place in their division. First place in the NFC West over the 49ers. Can y'all believe that? Ever since George Kittle has lifted his shirt and said "fuck you, Dallas," the Niners are 0-3. Karma. So it's going to be a great game. I'm excited to watch that game. Um, DK Metcalf is going to be a low risk start here, just because he still is a wide receiver number one there in Seattle. I really like him. They try to get him the ball in the red zone, touchdowns, and so he's a must start every week. Tyler Lockett has looked pretty good so far. Geno Smith has a lot of faith and trust in Tyler Lockett, and he's been, if you have him on your fantasy lineup, he's been pretty decent for you. And I'm going to go ahead and have him as a low risk. I really think this is going to be a high scoring game, so I expect the Seahawks to throw the ball quite a bit. Um, to keep up with the Ravens, because it seems like they have been very high powered. They have a high powered offense these past couple of weeks. Seems like they've finally gotten stuff figured out. So I could see this being a pretty high scoring game. So I really like Tyler Lockett to get some good quality catches and some yards this week. I'm gonna take the gamble and make him a low risk start. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm gonna go with him as a medium risk. Um, just because of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are there with him, and it's a pretty good solid wide receiver room there in Seattle. Moving on to the Ravens, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is going to be a low risk start. The offense is starting to click there for the Baltimore Ravens. They're starting to look good. They're being more productive, and they're putting up some points here lately. They're looking like a pretty good Baltimore Ravens team, a team that can look like they could possibly run the AFC this year. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a great matchup. But, you know, also over there we have OBJ. I don't really like OBJ. He's only averaging about 5 points per game. He's going to be a high risk start for me. There's some other weapons there that the Ravens seem to be running the offense through, like Gus Edwards, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and of course Lamar Jackson. So if you have OBJ, I'd shy away from that high risk guy. And yeah, just tune in and get your popcorn ready. I think it's going to be a great game. That's all I have for this matchup. We're going to go ahead and kick it over to Dalton. He has the Cardinals versus the Browns.
Yeah, guys. So for this one, this is going to be a matchup that is probably not going to be as exciting. This, to me, feels like it's going to be a Monday night game, but I still feel like there's still some good talent in this game. However, the only receiver that I have currently in this game that is going to be a low risk is Amari Cooper. However, I'm not completely sold on the quarterbacks for either one of these teams. So for the Browns, you currently have PJ Walker. He hasn't exactly been putting up the best numbers quite yet in his last 3 starts that he's had for the Browns, filling in for Deshaun Watson. At best, he's coming in at quarterback 24. At worst, he's finishing quarterback 32. So I'm not really super confident in this. The only reason I do have Amari Cooper, start coming in and being a low risk is because of the matchup with Arizona Cardinals. They are 29th right now in They are 29th right now in reception yards defense, so giving up passing yards. So I really think that PJ Walker could have a decent outing, and they're going to look for Amari Cooper early and often. As for Elijah Moore, I currently have him as a medium risk because they just traded Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Detroit Lions right before the trade deadline. So I think that's going to open up more appeal for Elijah Moore, give him more opportunities. So I do have him at a medium risk despite the poor quarterback play. As for the Arizona Cardinals, I have all three wide receivers, Marquise Brown, Michael Wilson, and Rondale Moore, as very high risk in this game. After trading Josh Dobbs to the Minnesota Vikings, they are now relying on rookie quarterback Clayton Tune. So this is something that I would highly stay away from, not only because it's a rookie quarterback, but guys, this is a very highly touted Cleveland Browns defense. They are, if you look right here, they are 5th in targets defense, 3rd in reception yards given up, 7th in touchdowns, and they are 3rd in fantasy points per game. So they are a very strong defense with a rookie quarterback that's going to be starting now after they've just traded Josh Dobbs. I highly suggest staying away from this. The chances of someone on this team going off it's a very high risk. I would stay away from it. But anyways, now guys, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to DJ with the Minnesota Vikings versus the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, so in this game, like you were talking about with Josh Dobbs now taking over for Minnesota, they've already announced that with him taking over for Minnesota, that it won't be this upcoming week 9. So because of that, I do have Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne as medium risk plays. Jordan Addison is easily showing that he is a wide receiver 1 in the absence of Justin Jefferson, but with Kirk Cousins going out with his Achilles injury and them trading for Joshua Dobbs, him being out, so now they're relying on rookie quarterback Jaren Hall. All because of that, it's very hard for me to put my faith in these wide receivers. I think that Jordan Addison is worth a start this week, but he is on that medium risk side. He wouldn't surprise me if he scores sub 8, sub 7 points this week, just because they're trying to figure it out with a rookie quarterback. And this Atlanta defense is pretty good. KJ Osborne obviously carries a lot higher risk with him, even with Justin Jefferson still being out. I think that TJ Hawkinson has proven himself as the second best pass catcher on that team. So it's going to go Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and then KJ Osborne. So with that rookie quarterback in there, not really sure how I feel about that, but I can tell you it's not great. Moving on to Atlanta, though. It is Drake London's team. He continues to get 20+% snap share or target share for this team. So I have him as a low risk play here. Minnesota's defense gives up a lot to the wide receiver position. As we can see, they have allowed the 28th most points to this position. So really that defense is designed to allow everything underneath, and it's rung true this entire season, week to week. So because of that, I think Drake London is going to camp low. They're going to get him a lot of high targets. And also with this, I'm interested to see what Atlanta decides to do with the quarterback situation, whether it be Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heinicke. If it's Taylor Heinicke, I think that only adds more value to all of these wide receivers, but more so Drake London than anybody. Now, the other two, Mac Hollins and Van Jefferson, very high risk plays. And they still up to this point have not averaged 5 fantasy points this season. So high risk, staying away from them. I know that they're facing a bad Minnesota defense in terms of pass, but I think it's safe to say go ahead, stay away from them in this upcoming week. But anyways, let's go ahead and we'll kick it on to the next match, and that is going to be Nathan talking about Tampa Bay versus Houston.
Well, if you're anything like us three, we like to do sports betting. And like Bruno Mars said, we all want to be billionaires so fucking bad. And it has not worked out for us. So if you could come in and help us three bozos make better sports bets and help us get rich, help you get rich, we'd much appreciate it. And it'd be obliged. So come and join our Discord chat and make fun of the stupid shit and the stupid bets that we put in, baby. Let's ride. Yeah, both teams here looking for a win, trying to rebound here. Houston just came off of heartbreaker to Carolina and gave the Panthers their first win of the season, and the Buccaneers are coming off a heartbreaker to the Bills, to where I personally thought that Chris Godwin could have caught that football. Anyways, moving on to the Buccaneers wide receivers, I have Mike Evans. Mike Evans again. He's Mike Evans, guys. I mean, 1,000 yards every year he's been in the NFL. It's a no-brainer, low-risk start for me. I like Mike Evans. I'm a big Mike Evans fan. So yeah, if you have him, start him. No questions asked, in my opinion. We're gonna go ahead and move on to Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin also be a low-risk start. I like Chris Godwin here. They're both really good wide receivers, and if those two guys play on any other teams, they're both wide receiver ones for the teams that they play on. They're that good. Um, I'm not going to really get into the other wide receiver there and Tampa Bay just because he's irrelevant. Um, so let's go ahead and jump into the Houston wide receivers. Houston wide receivers, we got Nico Collins. I believe that Nico Collins so far this year is the wide receiver one there for CJ Stroud. And when they're cooking and when they're playing really good football, expect big numbers out of both of them, CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. And I fully expect that they're gonna throw the ball a lot. Get the offense rolling, try to get down the ball down the field, and try to put some good collective drives together and get their playmakers involved. And speaking of playmakers, another guy there that I really really like, and that is Tank Dell. DJ has talked about in the past how much he likes Tank Dell coming out of the University of Houston. He is one of their big playmakers. They try to get him the ball in space and create space for him and let his speed do the work. He's a very, very great guy to have. Someone that you can plug into your flex, someone that you can plug in for if you have another receiver or a flex person on a bye week, because they really do try to get him the football and try to make plays with him. Um, Third, we have Robert Woods as a wide receiver three there. Um, he is a captain on that football team, but it's it's hard to buy into him just because his age. He's getting up there in age. He hasn't been consistent. It doesn't look like CJ Stroud really likes to throw him the ball all that much. I think he likes more of Nico Collins and Tank Dell. We saw he's targeted Noah Brown some with him coming back, and Dalton Schultz as well. So it's kind of crowded over there, but I would stay away from Robert Woods. He's going to be my low risk guy, and Tank Dell is my medium risk, and I have Nico Collins as a low risk. And I said Robert Woods was a low risk, didn't I? So with all that being said, I have Robert Woods as a high risk start here. I have Tank Dell as a medium risk start, and then my low risk guy would be um, Nico Collins. And both of these teams are struggling. I really think receivers here could have big gains potentially, but that's all I'm going to cover much on this game. Next, we're going to kick it over to Dalton, where he's going to be covering the Bears versus the Saints.
All right. Yes, guys, for this game, Bears versus the Saints. So I currently have three wide receivers in this matchup that I'm really liking. The first for the Bears is DJ Moore. I think he's going to be a low risk. Not a big fan of the quarterback right now, Tyler Bagent. He's coming in. He's not playing bad as a first year starter, but I think with DJ Moore, they're going to definitely still find ways to get DJ the ball, whether that's in short, intermediate routes. They're going to get him involved early, and I'm definitely going to like that because even after Justin Fields being out, his production and his overall efficiency went down, but his target share is still there. He's still averaging 8 to 10 targets per game. He's still going to get the looks, and they're going to find ways to give their playmaker the best opportunity to help them win the game. So overall, low risk. I know DJ Moore's going to get his looks regardless who's behind center. As for Darnell Mooney, guys, I thought Darnell Mooney was going to have a great game last week. Right out the gate, the first play of the game versus the Los Angeles Chargers, he had like a 40, 50-yard pass right out of the gate. Great catch. Loved it. I thought this was going to be his time right here to really make his staple on this team. But then, unfortunately, that was the only reception he had the whole game. So, uh, like I said, I have him as a very high risk in this game. He's just not going to get the looks. I just think that Tyler Bagent is going to be trying to find his guy, and that's going to be DJ Moore when he does pass. Other than that, I think they're going to rely heavily on the run early and often. And then when they do try to stay up, they're just going to look for DJ Moore. As for the Saints, however, with Derek Carr, Derek Carr has the arm to pass 40 to 50 yards. Derek Carr has the arm to pass 40 to 50 times per game, which I think is very beneficial to especially be able to give plenty of opportunities and looks for 3 wide receiver sets. So, and for this reason, that's why I have no one as a high risk for the Saints wide receivers. Chris Olave and Michael Thomas being my very low risk receivers. Chris Olave has averaged 11 targets the last 3 games, and so I expect nothing less versus this Bears defense. Chris Olave is probably going to get, I would say, north of 10 plus targets, and he's probably going to get anywhere between 60 and 80 yards receiving, and he might get a touchdown. So and as for Michael Thomas is averaging he's averaging 10 points, fantasy points per game PPR. For me, that's a low risk because he's been consistent as hell all year long with like 10 points per game. He's not going to go up there and put you 20, 30 points like he used to, but he's going to give you that reliable, consistent gameplay that you can put in your flex spot and know, hey, he's not going to give me a goose egg. 10 points, I'll take it as a flex spot for Michael Thomas. As for Rashid Shaheed, I have him as a medium risk, but he is someone on this team who could outperform and outscore everyone on this team just because of his big playability and the things that he can do with only 3 passes. I think he had 3 targets last week for 3 receptions, and he freaking went off for like 150 yards and with only 3 targets. So, guys, with that being said, I have him as a medium risk because it's a matter of what happens with those limited opportunities, but they could be huge opportunities. So I have him as a medium risk here. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to DJ. DJ, what do you have for the Washington Commanders versus the New England Patriots?
So in this game, there's honestly, if you can see here, Juju Smith-Schuster, he's got a little bit of a green highlight here. I do have him as a low risk play, and the reason that I do have Juju as a low risk play is because Kendrick Bourne, their number 1 pass catcher, is out for the season with the torn ACL. I don't fully trust Mac Jones, but what I do trust is that the high pass attempts is going to continue. Kendrick Bourne is not there. Those pass attempts have to go to somebody, and right now I have more faith in Juju than I do Devontae Parker. If we also look onto the left side of your screen, you also see that the Commanders are so bad at defending the pass. Currently, they are next to last and total fantasy points per game allowed, but then they're also dead last in receiving yards and touchdowns allowed to the wide receiver position. So I think this is going to kind of be a come out game for Juju Smith-Schuster. Could Devontae Parker, I think, is obviously going to benefit off of this as well. So I do have him as a medium risk play. Now, on the other side of the ball for the Washington Commanders, I do have Terry McLaurin also as a low risk play here. But honestly, any of these Commanders wide receivers, what's kind of bad with this crew is you don't really know who's going to pop off from week to week. And that's mainly because all of their target share percentage is roughly the same. We can see Terry McLaurin is at 22%, Jahan Dotson 17%, and then Curtis Samuel at 15%. So those are all pretty closely related. There's really not a true wide receiver 1, but I mean, if you had to say who it was more than likely Terry McLaurin. He has all of the numbers on everybody else there, but he's not far off from everybody. So Terry McLaurin, low risk play. Jahan Dotson here. We saw Jahan Dotson really kind of find himself this last week, finished as a wide receiver 7 in PPR league, scoring just shy of 25 points. So had a good game, but I do give him this medium risk play here. New England is a good defense versus wide receivers. They do struggle a little bit, but I would say that they're more middle of the pack coming in at 21st. So giving him that medium risk play here, if it's someone that you absolutely need to start, then I get it. But I will say that I don't necessarily love the matchup. Curtis Samuel, we saw him take a little bit of a dip this week, but he is a double-digit scorer. He is wide receiver 2 for this team. That's proven to be for this team. So with that dip, Jahan Dotson had a good week, but again, it looks like everyone's having a good week versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who they faced this last week, who is the worst pass defense in the NFL. But anyways, let's go ahead and let's move on to the next matchup, which is Nathan covering the Colts versus the Panthers.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go ahead and just jump right into it here. For the Colts, we have Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. has picked up, and he's done pretty good. Definitely the wide receiver 1 there. He's been getting his catches in the yards, and Minshew throws him the ball, likes to get him the ball. They're just the Colts are all over the place. Seems like they can score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points. So I really feel like any game that they play in, it could be a high scoring game. A lot of Minshew dropping back to pass, throwing the football. So that leaves some pretty good stuff for Michael Pittman Jr. to get some good targets and some catches and some yards and a touchdown. He's going to be my low risk start guy. Moving on, we've got Josh Downs. I really like Josh Downs here lately. He's been very, very good and very productive for the Colts, and that's simply because of well, Minshew's dropping back the pass, and they're scoring a lot of points because they're giving up a lot of points. They're having to throw the football to keep up with whoever they're playing. So you have either one of those two guys. I feel like they can be a start for your team. Josh Downs, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put him as a medium risk guy here, um, just because he's a rookie and Michael Pittman's number one. But the third wide receiver there, they have Alec Pierce, and I shy away from Alec Pierce. Nothing really much to have there, and consistency is not there. So, but if you do have Josh Downs or Pittman Jr., I really like them as starts this week or any week because, like I said, the Colts really have to score a lot of points to keep up with who they're playing with, and they throw the football quite a bit with Minshew. So I really like those two guys in your lineup. Next, we have they're playing the Panthers, and of course, you're going to start Adam Thielen. He is the wide receiver one there for Carolina. They try to get him the ball when they need big plays, when they need touchdowns. They look for Adam Thielen. Bryce Young looks for Adam Thielen, and that's just because he's a veteran. He's seasoned in the NFL. He knows how to read defenses. He knows how to play the zone very well to find that open space and sit in the open space and make it easier on Bryce Young. And it seems like the more that the season goes on, the more Bryce Young gets more comfortable in looking in Adam Thielen's direction and getting him the ball and relying on him to get that offense moving down the field. Um, Next, we have Jonathan Mingo. I like Jonathan Mingo as a medium risk guy. He's showing promise. He's just a rookie, and that'll come with time. But he has the potential to be a good wide receiver in the NFL. But like I said, that's going to come with time because he is a rookie this year. Carolina's just trying to figure everything out and figure out how they want to go moving forward, and they just try to get on the ball. So he's going to be a medium risk guy, and same with DJ Chark. They just and just really outside of Adam Thielen, it's going to be those two guys competing week to week for wide receiver number two in that offense. So those are guys that if you have to put in for your flex, you can. But if you want any Carolina wide receiver or you happen to have all three of them, Adam Thielen is your guy to have, and you probably don't have all three of them. But that's all I have for this matchup here. Let's go ahead and kick it over to DJ. He's going to be covering the Giants versus the Raiders.
This is a pretty simple matchup. It's very good wide receivers in Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers versus very bad wide receivers in Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. So for the New York Giants, I mean, neither one of these wide receivers score over 7 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues. Darius Slayton at 5.6, Wan'Dale Robinson at 7 points. And I think it's mainly just because this team is just built to run. And if they're not running with Saquon Barkley, then they're running with Daniel Jones. And then if they're passing the ball, those passes are most likely also going to Saquon Barkley as well. So because of that, the wide receiver position for this team has struggled. And then also not to mention this Raiders defense is very good against wide receivers. They're currently top 5 in fantasy points per game allowed. But as we can also see, they're top 10 in every single category: targets, receiving yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. So because of that, I do give Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson high-risk plays here. But then on the other side of the ball, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers had a difficult week this last week. And I do appreciate y'all on our social media pages giving us some comments and shout outs and everything else, because I saw some of y'all saying that Davante Adams was y'all's lifesaver because that's who you faced this week, and it was the last game of the last game of the week for y'all. And y'all were winning by only a couple points, and you thought for sure your week was over because they had Davante Adams, but then Davante Adams didn't even score 5 points. So he ended up winning. So a lot of y'all were happy about that. Obviously, if you're a Davante Adams owner, you were not happy with that performance because you only really needed a couple points, and you probably could have saw yourself win, and you unfortunately didn't. Versus this New York Giants team, I do feel that it's going to be a lot different story. That Lions team that the Raiders faced on Monday night is a very good defense. I know Baltimore had it. They're fun with them. But they figured it back out. They got back on track. So I do think that the Raiders are going to figure it out a little bit more. I did think Davante Adams was a potential trade target and going to be on his way out of Las Vegas, but they held their ground and said absolutely not. So glad to see him back. I do think that with that, him and Jacoby Myers are going to get back on track this week. They are 15 plus fantasy guys week to week. So why not? Anyways, let's go ahead and kick it on to the next matchup, and it is going to be Nathan talking about the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting matchup, guys. The Cowboys are coming off looking very, very well against the Rams. The Eagles are coming off to another nail biter against the Commanders. It's going to be a great matchup, divisional rivalry. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Let's go ahead. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the Eagles wide receivers here. We have AJ Brown, must start. He is now 6 games in a row over 125 plus receiving yards. If you have them, you're starting them, and if you're not starting them, you need to question your fantasy football managing skills because you probably don't need to be playing fantasy football if you're not starting this guy. He is definitely a low risk start. He is him. That offense runs through him, and it's clear to see Jalen Hurts gets him the football and a lot. So he's definitely going to be a guy who you're going to have to start here. I also like Devontae Smith. I'm going to like Devontae Smith this week against the Cowboys. I think it has the potential to be a high scoring game if both offenses are clicking and rolling. So I like Devontae Smith here as a medium risk start. He has the potential to be a low risk start. He does, but with the way that AJ Brown has been playing and the way the offense has been running through AJ Brown, and they're mixing in the run game with DeAndre Swift, I don't see them. I don't see Devontae Smith popping off for 30 points like an AJ Brown will. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say a medium risk start here for Devontae Smith just because of how well AJ Brown has been playing and how much they get him the football. Not even going to talk about Julio because he was just picked up not a couple weeks ago, and time will tell there. But he is their wide receiver 3. Did catch a touchdown last week, but other than that, wasn't very productive. Let's go ahead and move on to the Dallas Cowboys wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb, that's about it. That's all you need to know. I mean, there's not really much else to say there. I will say this, though. When Dak Prescott has gotten CeeDee Lamb the football and they've ran that offense through CeeDee Lamb and they've targeted CeeDee Lamb, that offense has looked very, very, very good. And it seems like all the games that they've lost this year really struggled with this year. They didn't really get CD the ball. I mean, you go back and you look at that 49ers game, they didn't really get CD involved all that well and come back and it bit them. So I really, really, really hope that the Cowboys can get CeeDee Lamb involved this week. It's a very big road test in playing Philadelphia. And just because they are the number 1 seed in the NFC, it's also a divisional rivalry game. So I'm ready for this matchup this weekend, and I'm hoping that we can get CeeDee Lamb involved. He is a low risk start for me. Moving on to Michael Gallup. I'm going to put Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks as a high risk start for me. Like I said, if that offense is clicking, and if it is, it's because they're running that offense through CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to get most, if not almost all the targets. And it seemed like that's all that Dak really threw the ball to against the Rams was CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. So I, if they're clicking and they're rolling, it's really because that's who he's thrown it to. I think he only targeted Gallup maybe 2 or 3 times, and Brandon Cooks is there as a deep threat, hoping to hit a home run shot. So if you're starting him, that's really all that you're banking on with Brandon Cooks. So that's really all I got for this matchup. I'm excited to see it. I'm ready for it. I'm hoping that my Cowboys can get a win here on the road against the number one seed in the NFC. And I really hope that we get CD involved in that offensive clicking. And I hope we go in there and we upset the Eagles and we put it to them. But wishful thinking. We'll see how it goes. That's all I have for this matchup. Let's go ahead and kick it over to Dalton. He's going to be covering, I believe, is going to be our Sunday night football game, the Bengals versus the Bills.
Are you trying to get rich quick? Well, so are we. Unfortunately, we tried betting and that hasn't worked, but we're still sticking to it. We do need help though. So what I want y'all to do, I need y'all to join our Discord channel. Drop your best bets in there because me, Dalton, and Nathan all need your help. So please go join that Discord. You can find it in our YouTube description below. Click on that link, join the group, drop your best bets, help us out. We all get money, we all get rich, and we love it. Let's continue with the episode.
Yeah, so guys, in this Sunday night showdown versus the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals, guys, this is going to be a matchup that's going to be heartfelt, as we know, as this is going to be almost a 1 year removed from Damar Hamlin, which we know was very scary. But this is something that's going to get a lot of attention and a lot of viewers. But for this matchup, I currently have Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis in here being a very low risk for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is going to continue to pass at a very high rate, and he's going to be very efficient, especially in this matchup that he's going to need to be versus the Cincinnati Bengals defense. So Stephon Diggs, as you can see, is going to continue to average 10 plus targets per game, and he's probably going to catch anywhere between 7 to 8 of those for probably 100 yards like he's been doing all year long. Very consistent, and he's going to probably likely be a red zone target if given that opportunity. As for Gabe Davis, as you can tell, had a very good showing last week. He, I believe, scored 24 fantasy points last week, which was kind of, looking like his normal self from last year. He's kind of had a slow start to begin, but it looks like he's starting to come back into his normal self this year. So that's something that's good to see. I think he's still going to get those amount of targets, especially as many times as Josh Allen has been throwing the ball and spreading those targets around the field. As for the Cincinnati Bengals, Ja'Marr Chase, guys, this is a given. Ja'Marr Chase is going to get you anywhere between 12 and maybe 15 targets this game. The Joe Burrow looks like the injury is behind him. It looks like he's starting to put things together, and it's starting to look like the old Joey Burrow that we've known since he's entered the NFL, and he's starting to light things on fire again. And as by default, Ja'Marr Chase is starting to benefit from that very much so. So he's likely going to be north of 100 yards as well, just like Stephon Diggs. So that's why I have him as a very low risk. As for T. Higgins, he's had a pretty slow start this year. He is the number 2 receiver for this team, but he's only had 19 catches for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns this year. But he did have a pretty strong outing for 69 yards versus the 49ers last week, so which was a bright spot, which was good. But then again, for this week, again, it's a medium risk for me just because I don't know what T. Higgins we're going to get. I don't know how many opportunities he's going to receive because it seems like it's kind of skewed and it's all over the place. So he could have a good outing. He may not. So that's why I have him as a medium risk. I just don't know where he's going to land this week versus the Buffalo Bills. As for Tyler Boyd, I also have him as a medium risk. I feel like, honestly, he is more of the more reliable receiver behind Ja'Marr Chase. I feel like he's had a much more productive season than T. Higgins. As he's had 33 catches for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. I feel like he's kind of settled in very well as a possession catcher here for them, and he's been very consistent, averaging 10 fantasy points per game. So, like I said, this is someone I have at a medium risk, but I have him at a medium risk for the sense that he's still going to be consistent, unlike T. Higgins. T. Higgins is going to be someone who's going to be, I have him at a medium risk because he could come out and show up and put up 20 points, or he could come out and get you 5. Whereas Tyler Boyd is going to get you at least those 10 points. I'm pretty sure of it. So I really like it. I like him here in this matchup. I think he's going to be a better option than T. Higgins if you're looking for someone who's a little more reliable. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to DJ for our last Monday night game versus the West Coast Los Angeles Chargers versus the East Coast New York Jets. So DJ, take it away.
Man, yeah, what a plane ride for the Chargers having to go all the way to New York. But it'll be a good game. I'm hoping for a good Monday night game. This last one, Detroit and Las Vegas, it was hard to watch after some time. But anyways, getting into this matchup though, with the Chargers, I do have Keenan Allen. Again, he is a 30+ target share guy. Like I said, anyone that has that 30 number is an automatic start. Usually these are going to be your superstars. Keenan Allen is that. So he is a low risk play here. Joshua Palmer, on the other hand, he is a higher risk play for me. He's someone that has struggled, especially he ended his 4-game streak of double-digit points in fantasy this last week, and that was mainly because he suffered a knee injury this last week. We also saw his snap percentage go down. We saw him all up in the 90s and the 80s the last 3 weeks, but then this last week he was at 68% of the snaps, and that was because of his knee injury that he suffered. So it is something to see, worth monitoring. He was able to finish the game last week, but I mean, obviously it's something that he is having to deal with heading into this matchup, where we can see the Jets have the best overall defense against wide receivers, ranking number 1 in all of the categories: targets, receiving yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to this position. So again, something worth monitoring. Maybe the Chargers see that as a risk that they don't want to take with him and go ahead and let him have that week off. I don't know. Haven't seen an injury designation for him yet, so he is still listed as questionable. But let's go ahead and jump into the Jets side of things. And first on this list, we have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, again, a 30+ target share percentage here. He is a superstar. He is a automatic start week to week, but especially more so against this matchup versus the Chargers. We see that the Chargers struggle. They are roughly bottom 5 in all of the categories except for targets, but fantasy points per game is more so the biggest thing here. Is bottom 3 in fantasy points allowed. So I think that Garrett Wilson is going to have another big week. He is averaging 14+ fantasy points per game, and I think that he goes well over that, potentially finds the end zone in this matchup. Now that leaves us with the last wide receiver, and that is Allen Lazard. I think Allen Lazard is going to have a good game here. He's on the field a lot. We see him on the field 88.2% of the time. For his snap share, he does only get just roughly 4 targets a game, but he gets 7 fantasy points. So I think that he is a double-digit scorer this week. I give him a medium risk play here just because that Jets O-line is just very scary. The Chargers D-line is good. I mean, there's some question marks there, but they are good. So I think that the New York Jets offensive line will have some fits this week, but that doesn't take away from Garrett Wilson. That's just my only thing with Allen Lazard here, is I'm a little bit skeptical on him. So anyways, guys, that is all that we have for these week 9 matchups. Thank y'all so much for the continued support. Again, we were finally able to break our triple-digit subscribers. So thank you to all of you who are followed along with us from day 1. I mean, even day 10, day 100. Even if this is your first time following along with us, we thank y'all so very much, because every little thing helps. So again, thank you so much. Again, we are trying to build a community. We plan on doing this long term, and we can't do it without y'all. So we do have a community in Discord where we do talk fantasy football, where we do talk mainly sports betting. So if that describes you, I would love for y'all to join our Discord group, where we do a lot of sports betting. And guys, it isn't only the NFL. We do college football. We do
help
the
us
NBA.
make money.
Yes,
help us
guys,
to help
We
you.
can't do it.
No,
We need you.
I hate admitting this, but the last 2 weeks in the NFL, I'm 0 for 10. I haven't won.
I'm not looking too great either, boys.
I haven't won a bet. I'm 0 for 10 in my bets. So really what we all need is y'all to get there and to tell us. You are not going to go to our group and get expert advice. We need you to come to our group and give us expert advice. That's what we need. So please go in there, drop your picks, tell us what we need to do, call us some bozos, because we are. We need to hear it from somebody else other than ourselves. All right. So anyways, join that group. Thank y'all so much for listening, and we will see y'all next time.
Pleasure around the pine, boys.